Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Esco Group, I would like to welcome you to today's webinar. Before we get started, we just wanted to inform you of our webinar format. We want to be respectful of everyone's time, so we will end our presentation after 45 minutes. All attendees will be muted throughout the presentation. You may submit questions through the question tool on your control panel or by sending a message through the chat feature. If time allows, we will answer as many questions as possible at the end of the presentation. If we're unable to get to your question, we will follow up with you by email. This webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be made available in the Proctor login area of the Esco Group website. And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to today's presenters. My name is Renee Tomlinson, and I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships here at Esco, and I'll be back on the presentation a little bit later. At this time, I would like to introduce you to my esteemed colleague and hand over the presentation to our Vice President of Program Development, Randy Peaty. Randy?
Thank you, Renee. I would also like to say welcome to all of you online today for taking time out of your busy day to be with us. The part of the presentation I'm going to do is going to be an overview of what we consider some of the important rule changes for 608. In the fall of 2016, EPA updated Section 608 refrigerant regulations. As a result, some of the new regulations now address issues including HFCs, HFO refrigerants, revised allowable leak rates, and expanded record-keeping guidelines. EPA has also provided all approved testing organizations a new bank of test questions that need to be used before the end of the year. Using these questions, each organization must do as we at Esco have done already. We've updated the training materials and developed new training, new exams to go along with the new training materials. We've already completed and released certification testing and the training materials in both English and Spanish versions. The majority of the regulatory changes that have occurred involve the maximum annual leak rates, leak testing, and record-keeping requirements. Affecting most of the industry is the new record-keeping for the disposal of appliances containing 5 to 50 pounds of refrigerants. This is a new one that affects just about all the contractors. There are more stringent requirements for repairing leaks in larger appliances, with a new reporting requirement that kicks in when larger appliances leak 125% or more of their charge in a calendar year. Also, now the EPA is restricting the sale of HFCs and HFO refrigerants to technicians that are certified under Section 608 or 609 of the Clean Air Act. Technicians must also handle HFC refrigerants in appliances containing HFC refrigerants in the same manner that they have handled other ozone depletion refrigerants in the past. EPA has also improved the readability and simplified some of the compliance regulations, especially dealing with the larger equipment. One of the big things today, the fines have been increased to $44,539 per day per violation. Some people ask, how did they come up with this figure? Well, Congress authorized EPA to be able to increase the fines each year at a certain percentage. And being they haven't increased them but once, they decided to take all of the increases for each year and add it together, and now we're up to the 44,000 mark. As a bonus on the test, though, the new tests, you don't need to remember all of the dates as the previous test had. So that's going to make it a lot easier for a lot of people taking the test. Wholesalers and refrigerant resellers must maintain records as they did in the past, but remember, they've got to maintain those records for a minimum of 3 years. And we have a couple questions from wholesalers, which I'm going to answer as statements. Wholesalers are not required to have the same certification as technicians to sell to each other. The reason we had this question was one wholesaler was giving refrigerant to another wholesaler that had a low inventory, and they were wondering whether or not they had to have the certification to do that. They don't. Also, persons receiving controlled refrigerant for a company does not require the certification. But the refrigerant that's being sold has to be tied to a certification that's on file for that company. And to play it safe, if I was a wholesaler for a cash sale, I would make sure that the customer shows proof of certification, because some people will buy under that doesn't work for a company, may buy under a company's name, and don't want to get caught doing something wrong there. Employees must be aware of and adhere to new regulations, as they are now required to have proof that the technicians have the proper certification level for the equipment they're servicing. They must also maintain a copy of the technician certification at their place of business for 3 years, even after the certified technician leaves the employer. They got to keep the records for 3 years. Also, new record keeping requirements, as I said, for appliances containing 5 to 50 pounds of refrigerant become effective January 1st this year. All requirements for the maintenance, service, repair, and disposal of equipment containing Class 1, Class 2 substances are extended to the HFCs and HFO refrigerants. So just as in the past with 12, 22, recovery and so forth, you've got to handle the refrigerants the same way. There are new leak rate guidelines and leak repair testing guidelines. This mostly affects the commercial end. Also, system retrofitting, retiring, and mothballing procedures have been redefined for the larger equipment. Many have asked, is there a need to have their technicians recertify? And the answer is no. The old certification is still valid. The only thing that has changed on the new cards, the wording is different. Before, people were mistaking the certification as proof of knowledge for service and repair of HVAC or systems, which was not the intention of EPA. So EPA has changed the wording on the card to clarify that it is for handling refrigerants only, and you're not a certified technician as far as repair goes. It's only for handling the refrigerants. One of the new rules is mandatory to have a directory or internet-based directory that can be accessed from anywhere. Many years ago, we at Esco added this feature to our database. So one could go online and check their scores or see if they were certified and what levels. Now that everyone has to have an online database, a person can call us or opt out online, which was going to be covered later by Renee in his presentation. But the database, when you punch in the person's name and certificate number, it'll show whether or not they are indeed certified under Section 608. Just as the other control refrigerants, HFCs and HFOs cannot be resold unless they have been reclaimed by a certified reclaimer or it's newly manufactured refrigerant. Again, HFCs and HFOs are restricted to only certified technicians. There is an exception, as before, for the small cans used in the automobile industry. Now, recovered refrigerant, if it just as before, it cannot change ownership. It can be moved from one piece of equipment to another if it does not change ownership. The only thing I would be careful about is warranty, because some manufacturers will not warranty the equipment if they find out you've used refrigerant that has been in another piece of equipment. Records must still be kept regarding all refrigerant purchases, how much refrigerant is sold, unintentionally vented, recovered, etc. There are new record-keeping requirements that refer to disposed appliances that have 5 to 50 pounds of refrigerant. Before, you didn't have to keep track unless it was over 50 pounds. Now, anything above 5 pounds, you've got to keep track. And the record's got to include the company name, the technician's name, the location of the appliance, the date of recovery, and the type of refrigerant that was recovered for each appliance. And these records are normally kept on the invoices, so it's nothing really new except that you've got to make sure you have them today. To make things a little easier, there's a new revision to the regulations requiring companies and technicians to keep records of the amount of ozone depletion substitutes or non-exempt substitute refrigerants that are transferred for reclamation. And you got to keep track of how much is transferred in a calendar month by the quantity, the type of refrigerant. You must also have the name of the company and the person that received that refrigerant. And EPA stated that an audit of service invoices should match the quantities of refrigerant recovered in the field. This is one way to trying to go about making sure that people return refrigerant instead of letting it vent out after recovering it. There are new evacuation or recovery levels that are specified for all the regulated or ozone depletion refrigerants using the certified recovery and recycling equipment. The chart for these levels have been updated in the manuals. Also, there are now 4 refrigerant pressure categories. We had very high, now we have a medium and a low. And then they are basing the categories on a high side condensing pressures at 104 degrees, where before they were basing it on plus 50 and minus 50 degree evaporating temperatures. They are now using the condensing temperatures, and there's 4 categories to remember. Well, 5 rather. No, 4. I'm sorry. Now we have 3 annual allowable leak rates for large equipment as opposed to the previous 2. Comfort cooling is 10% maximum, commercial refrigeration 20% maximum, and then industrial process 30% maximum. Before, comfort cooling was 15%, and then commercial and industrial was 35%. So they made it a little bit easier by just coming up with the 3, and then the leak repair methods and calculations were changed so that it would be a little easier to keep track of. All right, the next 3 slides contain the new rules that are going to be effective January 2019. And as I said earlier, these rules apply mostly to commercial contractors working on the large systems with refrigerants with charges over 50 pounds. Mandatory leak inspections are required for appliances that have exceeded their applicable leak rate. And then you have to have mandatory verification tests to prove that the leak or leaks have been repaired. When a system is used for dual purpose, the maximum leak rate is determined by the highest use percentage. The breakdown for commercial refrigeration and industrial process systems is 50 to 500 pounds, and those that are over 500 pounds. So for comfort cooling systems with a charge of 50 pounds to 500 pounds, must have a leak inspection once per calendar year until it is demonstrated through leak rate calculations that the leak rate has not exceeded 10% in that calendar year. For commercial refrigeration and industrial process for charges of 50 to 500 pounds, they must also have a leak inspection once per calendar year until it's demonstrated that the leak rates calculations have not exceeded 20% for the commercial and 30% for industrial process for 1 year. With a system that has over 500 pounds of refrigerant, the leak inspection must be conducted every 3 months until the owner or operator can demonstrate that the leak rate calculations or they have not exceeded the leak rates for 4 consecutive quarters. So in the systems holding a large volume of refrigerant, it's got to be checked 4 times in a row within the year to make sure that it's not leaking. Initial and follow-up verification tests of leak repairs are required when the appliance exceeds the applicable leak rate. These tests must be performed before any refrigerant is added to appliance in an operating condition. Also, there is no waiting period between performing a leak repair and retesting the system for a leak. Only after verifying the system is leak-free can the appliance be returned to normal operation conditions. And then that's when the follow-up verification test can be performed. So they want it performed under normal operating conditions. Now that we've discussed the regulatory changes, what does that mean for training and testing of technicians for 608? The EPA has released a new bank of test questions to all organizations, and Renee is going to cover what that means for those out there giving the test to the contractors and students. Renee?
Thank you, Randy. So as Randy stated, there's a new bank of test questions now available. So of course that means there's a new exam. And with a new exam comes new training and preparatory materials. So Esco has already released the new preparatory manual available both in English and Spanish. There's a new PowerPoint, new practice exams, and of course, new examinations available both in paper and online in English and Spanish. We will talk in just a few minutes a little bit more about where you can access some of these materials online. Any registered proctors who've conducted paper examinations in the last 12 months have automatically been shipped out new test supplies. You likely have already received them if you've been doing paper testing. If not, there's a good chance that you're either on the way. If neither applies, you can always give us a call and order the supplies that you need at any time. One thing to point out as well is both the old and new paper exams are available through December 31st of this year. So you can continue testing under with the old exam until the end of the year. However, do keep in mind that the regulations have changed. So if people are testing under the old exam, they still need to be aware of the regulatory changes. So both the old and new exams will be available online through August 31st of this year. At September 1 date, we will be automatically converting any existing online exam credits for the 608 exams to the new test. If you have existing credits on your account and you would like them converted sooner, please feel free to contact us. We'll be happy to get you swapped over to the new test sooner. So what we wanted to do with you now that we've covered the new exam and the new materials is we're going to provide you with a very brief overview of the online testing system. We want to make you comfortable with finding all the resources available to you as proctors online. One thing to keep in mind, again, we're going to be very brief in our presentation just to give you an idea of where to find things and quick ways to launch exams, purchase your exam credits. If you need further assistance or a more detailed walkthrough of the online testing system, please do not hesitate to contact me or a member of our customer service team. We're always happy to assist you and help you through that process. So before we get started with that online testing walkthrough, I just had a quick question for everybody. Let me go ahead and throw that out there. So I just posted a question up for everybody to take a look at if everybody would answer the question. So we just are checking on how many of you are on the line right now are currently conducting online exams. Give everybody a second to answer that there and get my browser ready. All right, so it looks like we've got a good, let me go ahead and close that out and show you the results. So it looks like about 65% of you who are on the call today are currently using online testing, and that's fantastic. Hopefully, even though you're pros at using that online system, maybe you'll still learn a trick or two. So let me go ahead and close this out here. There we go. All right, again, so we're going to do a very brief walkthrough of the online testing system. The first thing to point out to you is that we are on escogroup.org. So many of you who have been proctoring for a number of years with us may be used to logging in under escoinst.com. You can still access online testing from there, but we're trying to get everybody ported over to Esco Group. We manage Esco Institute, HVAC Excellence, Green Mechanical Council, and all of our other functions, and we're trying to, Esco Group is kind of our main hub website that we're trying to branch everything off of. So if you have things saved in your browser, please get ported over to escogroup.org. On the website, you will notice in this upper right-hand corner this Proctor login link. That is where you are going to get logged in. Go ahead and clear that off the screen there, and we'll go ahead and get logged in. If you do not know your Proctor username and password, please feel free to contact a member of our customer service team. We can provide that information to you so you can get logged in. Right here on the Proctor login page, if you can't find the information to contact us, always just click on your Proctor login and you'll see right here that our toll-free number is here as well as our office hours. Oh, get the cursor back so I can type. So we're going to get logged in as a proctor. As soon as we log in, this is your welcome screen. You'll notice in the right here, this important notices box. So anything that's new, exciting, or important that we feel that you need to know as a proctor, we're going to post a link to some kind of information here. So as you notice right now, you'll see it says new EPA exams, new EPA cards, new EPA webinar. This is what's hot right now. So we're wanting to make sure you can easily find any information that you need about the new EPA exams right there. So always keep a lookout for new things being posted in that important notices section. The first thing we are going to take a look at in the online system here is across the top here, this menu, we have this option called the Resource Center. You go ahead and click on that. Our Resource Center is where you will find the EPA Section 608 preparatory materials for use by you as a proctor. So we have the preparatory manuals for both the old and new exams. The old materials are here on the left. The new materials are here on the right. So you can tell just by the covers of the books that are displayed there. But you'll also see that they are listed by title as well. All you need to do to access any of the materials here, the preparatory manuals or the PowerPoint, is just go ahead and click on one of those icons and the material will pop right up for you. So these are PDF files. You can download the preparatory manuals, and there's also the PowerPoints that you can utilize as well. So now that we've taken a look at where you can find the materials, of course, there's lots of other stuff in the Resource Center here, so please feel free to check out any of that stuff. But now that we've taken a look at that, we're going to go ahead and take a look at how to actually purchase an online exam credit. So if you haven't done a test before, just make sure that you know how to actually get an exam credit loaded up on your account and then how we'll administer a test. So again, back to this menu across the top, we're going to go to this section called Exams. This exam screen is going to be your central hub for administering, purchasing any type of examination, 608 or anything else available through Esco. If you notice here, there's this nice box that says Purchase Exams. In order to purchase an exam credit, we're just going to go ahead and click on that box. You'll see it brings you to kind of like a shopping cart display. There is a pull-down menu where you can select an exam type. When you're approved as a proctor, you're given access to different types of exams. So from this pull-down menu, you will select EPA 608 because that's what we're concentrating on today. Currently, because two versions of the test are available, to make it easier for you to know which one you're selecting, we have both old version and 2018 edition listed. So we are going to purchase a new edition exam. So we'll select EPA 608 2018 edition. As soon as we select that, you'll notice that EPA Section 608 V31, V32, all these different versions. One of the questions we get asked quite often is, which one do I pick? You can pick any of them. They're all just different variations of the 100 question 608 exam. So it doesn't matter if you pick V31 or V39. It's all the 608 exam. They're just different questions in different orders. One thing to also point out as well is that with online testing, questions are scrambled. So the questions are never going to be presented in the same order, even if two people next to each other are taking the same exam. The other thing to keep in mind as well is toward the bottom here, you'll see that we have the Spanish versions listed. So just make sure that you're selecting either the English versions or the Spanish versions correctly. So to put an exam in our shopping cart, we're just going to go ahead and click the plus sign next to the exam here. And actually, let's fix the quantity here and we'll grab 5 of these. So then we're going to go ahead once that's all we need. So we're going to proceed to the checkout. On the checkout screen, you'll notice that the billing information is already filled out. This is based on what we have set up for your account. So if there's anything that comes up that needs to be changed, please feel free to contact us. Underneath the billing information, there's a box for payment type. We allow you to pay by either a credit card or a purchase order number. So we're going to go ahead and pay with a purchase order, and immediately that locks the billing information, but you still do have to enter an email address in order for the order to go through. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that out, and I'm going to enter my purchase order number here. At the bottom of the screen, there is a reminder of what it is that you're purchasing, and you do have to click on the Proceed to Summary button. You notice it says up here your order is not yet complete because you're looking at an order summary. You have to click this green Submit Order button for your order to go through. So we're going to go ahead and click that. Once your order has been completed, you get this nice big complete order up here. So that, unless you get that, you know that your order has not gone through yet. If it says summary, it's not done. So to get back, now that we've purchased an exam credit, of course, we want to administer it. So to get back to the exam screen, we've added a button here for you to go back to view your exam credits, or again, this menu at the top, if you click on exams, that will take you back to basically where we started on this Welcome to Exams Online screen. And again, if you see here, here's the purchase exams box we started off with, so we're back to the same place. If we scroll down the page, you will see that this is the order that we just placed with PO number 123456 for, actually, yes, 123456 for the EPA Section 608 exam. So in order to start an exam, we have the traditional way, and this is still recommended for if you're going to test one candidate. You can hit the light blue select button next to the exam credit, and if you notice, a screen pops up that says you've selected exam EPA Section 608 E35 before you begin. It tells you the next page the participant will be required to enter their information, and if something were to happen and the exam became interrupted, there's an option to recover an exam. You would hit the green Proceed to Exam button, and this now brings the candidate information page. So the individual taking the test is going to fill out all their information here. Click Proceed to the exam. Now, one other thing to make mention of is once they proceed into that exam, your Esco proctor login closes out. So an individual is not able to arrow back and get into your proctor login. That basically closes out once once an exam is launched. So we looked at now this traditional way of administering an exam. I'm going to log back in because I'm going to be logged out. Again, because I launched an exam, it did log me out. So I'm going to just go ahead and get logged back in. So we were under exams and we launched a single test. But the other thing that we can do, if you have multiple people that you want to test at one time, rather than sitting at each individual computer, logging in and launching a test, is we've launched this newer feature that we call sessions. This button here for View Printable, if you go ahead and click on that, that opens a new tab in your browser with these sessions and credit numbers. So what you would do is you can print this page, and once you print it, you want to actually cut this into strips. So I'm indicating that, you want to cut these horizontally so that there's a session number and a credit number that you can give to each of your exam participants or students. So once you finish printing that, you can go ahead and close that out. And if you missed something or if you need to go back to it, this is not one of those things that you print once and it disappears. You can go back to it and access it multiple times. Once you do that, you can actually log out from your Proctor login. And if you'll notice, it takes us right back to the Proctor login screen. This is the same screen that we started off on from going from the home page to Proctor login. In the bottom right corner here, we have, are you here to take an exam? And there's a nice big blue button there that says proceed to your exam. That is where those session and credit numbers are going to be used. So once we hit proceed to exam, you'll see you're on a start exam session screen where it's asking for a session number, credit number, and the student information. So your exam candidates or your students will enter in the session number, credit number, all their information, click on proceed, and the exam will start right up for them. So that's a real fast and convenient way if you're testing 20, 30 students at a time, rather than, again, one by one logging them in. I'm going to go back to our Proctor login page and log back in once again so that we can just cover a couple more things under your Proctor login. We are going to go back under exams, and I do want to point out the difference between new exam credits and old exam credits. Just scroll down and let it stop there. So for the EPA Section 608 exam, for old exams, you'll notice that they say expires August 31st of 2018. This is the indicator of an old exam credit. These or this one here on the bottom, that was the new test that we just purchased, does not have that information. So it doesn't say it expires. This is a new exam credit. So again, if these do not get used by the end of August, they will automatically convert over to a new exam credit by September 1. Okay. Under your Proctor login area, another useful tool to you as an instructor or a trainer or exam administrator is this report section. You click on reports and you'll see that we have all different kinds of reports listed depending on the type of exam that you're looking for. Again, because we're concentrating on 608, we're going to go under the 608 report. I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. And to show you, there's dates. You can change the dates for your reports. So we can go ahead and say we want to look for anybody that we've tested from January 1 of 2017 to the current date. So we change those dates, click the Get Data button, and anybody who has been tested under our account during that date range will come up in the report. It's going to take a second because, of course, it's accessing a lot of data. But while we're waiting for that to come up, one thing I did want to point out to you as well is that all individuals listed are going to have a certificate number regardless if they pass or fail an exam. So the certificate number is really kind of like a student identification number for each individual person. So whether they have a certificate number or not does not indicate if they're certified. So you do have to watch for their test scores here to know if they're actually truly certified. Or we could access a different report that will actually tell us their certification status. And it's still having a hard time pulling up all my data because I just have too many exams under my account. So I'm going to go ahead and let's take a look at the other report there. Just refresh this real quick. Try and clear that out. Sorry, everyone. It's just because I'm trying to access 3 different things at a time, so it's having a bit of a hard time here. Of course, this has to do this today. All right, so since our proctor, there we go, proctor login, there we go. So we were looking at the reports, and the one last report to show you is the certification by exam type. And if we pull the 608 report here, this report will actually give you candidates by their certification type. So rather than just looking at scores, you can actually see the certification. So I'm just going to set this back about 2 months. See if we can get it to pull the data there. And you'll see my list of candidates, and you'll see that it shows their actual certification type. On the other report, we were looking at scores. On this report, we can actually see the certification type they've achieved. Okay, so this might be a little bit easier way for you to look at it if you didn't want to try to interpret scores. So we're going to, there's lots of other things to look at under the proctor accounts, but just for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and log out of there. And I just wanted to go over with you a few things on the public website and resources available for your students or exam participants. So I am going to go back to the Esco homepage. And I'd like to point out to you, if you scroll down to the very bottom of the Esco homepage, you'll see that we have the free practice exams link here. So this is where individuals preparing to take the exams can click on to access the free practice test. We currently have free practice exams available for both the old and new exam. Individuals just click on the links and the practice exams come right up. This is a nice way to get familiar with the online testing format because this is what an online exam looks like. It's very similar. For the practice questions, they are going to just click on these A, B, C, D answers here. And as you can see, as I'm answering questions, I'm either getting a green check mark or a red box here, and that's telling me if it's right or wrong. Of course, that doesn't happen when they're taking the test for real, but the practice questions, we do provide that information, so giving people more feedback on what they need to go back and study. So we've looked at the practice questions. Randy had mentioned to you about the public lookup. We have this link called Verify Certification. For any wholesalers that get individuals in with cards and you want to look it up and verify that the certification is valid, you can go to this Verify Certification link, enter in the individual's name as it's listed on their card. So we'll go ahead and look at Tommy Technician, and we'll go ahead and enter the certification number that's listed on Tommy Technician's card. Click on View Certifications. And it tells me that Tommy Technician is EPA Section 608 certified for universal. Also indicates to me the date that Tommy passed Core Type 1, Type 2, Type 3. So I know that this is a valid certification that was issued from Esco. Then the other thing for your students or exam participants, so that was a verified certification link. The other item that we have available in the upper right-hand corner next to your proctor login is the test results and replacement cards. So once a person takes an exam with us, they can access their test results or in the future order a replacement card through that link. So we're going to go ahead and click on that because I just wanted to make you aware of a new feature that's available for your exam candidates or your students. So I am going to log in as Tommy Technician again. So Tommy Technician just took an exam yesterday, passing universal certification. There is a nice big blue proof of certification button here. So pressing on that link is going to go ahead and bring up a letter that provides a temporary proof of certification. So we list these letters as valid for 30 days from the date of issuance. The individual should receive their credentials in the mail way within that time. So, but this is just to give them something immediately that has their certification number and their certification status. Speaking of the public directory, we talked about that. If an individual wants to opt out of the public directory, because that is an option, they can actually go into the, sorry, I popped up the Proctor login there. They can actually go into change student information, and they can update their address, their phone number, their email address, their birth date, and change certifications public to no, and that will take them out of the public directory. So that is an option for them as well. All right, so that about sums up some of those shortcuts and fun things that we wanted to go over with you for the online testing. Let me go ahead and bring up to you contact information so that if you should need to get a hold of any of us, you can do so. There you go. So our customer service information, telephone number, email address. If you'd like to contact either Randy or I directly, our email addresses are listed as well. So I know we are actually a couple minutes past the time, but I do see one question in there, and we're going to go ahead and answer that. If anybody has any other questions that they want to submit, certainly feel free. Okay, so the question is, you mentioned having an internet-based directory of employees and their EPA certification. Since I am in multifamily housing and we manage for different owners, am I still required to keep this log for all employees?
Yes. If they're working for you, you've got to have a record of their certification on file.
Okay, it looks like that is the only question that we have. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up and end the webinar. We'd like to thank you all for joining us today. Again, if you have any other questions or if there's anything else, oh, one more, can you email the presentation to us? Absolutely. If you're interested in getting a copy of this PowerPoint, please just shoot me an email at renee@escogroup.org. I'll be happy to send you a copy. Again, if there's anything else we can do to assist you or to help you through the online testing process, please don't hesitate to get in contact with us. Thank you all again. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.